On DVD and Blu-ray. Over 50,000 titles to choose from at shop.tcm.com or call 888-9-TCM-SHOP.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. All day today, we're celebrating the career of Danny Kaye on TCM. And joining me to talk about some of Kaye's best films is a woman who perhaps knew the multi-talented Danny Kaye as well as anyone, his daughter, Dina Kaye. She's been with me all afternoon discussing her father's films, and we're happy to have her back. Welcome, Dina.
Thank you.
Next up, it's Danny Kaye in the movie which brought him the second of his 2 Golden Globe Awards from 1958. It's Me and the Colonel. Dina, this is not a typical Danny Kaye movie at all. He plays a Polish-Jewish refugee trying to escape France as the Nazis advance. How did he come to make this movie, and how did he feel about it? Was this an important project for him?
I don't know how he personally felt about the movie, but what I do know is he never did anything that he didn't feel strongly about doing. And for him, this is a departure in so many ways. Visually, it was a departure because it was a black and white movie, and it was set in a historical period that wasn't a fantasy. It wasn't like Inspector General in some made-up Eastern European town. It was, you know, World War II. So for me, it had the feel of almost of a documentary. And in terms of his character, he wasn't a zany, crazy character. He was philosophical. He was quiet. He was thoughtful. He always said, his mother said, there are always 2 possibilities. And he had a real adversarial relationship with Kurt Jürgens, you know, when they first started.
But there is a sweetness to him. I mean,
Yes.
there are moments in the movie
Yes.
where it is Danny Kaye-like. I mean, no, there are no numbers, and it's a very serious role, and it's doused with anti-Semitism and the plight of refugees during the war. But still, he has a tenderness to him that I think really makes the movie.
There's an absolute tenderness to him, and I think, in fact, that is a thread that goes through a lot of his movies. I mean, even if you look at The Kid from Brooklyn, when he's worried about his horse Agnes is pregnant, there's a tenderness about him. There's a tenderness about him.
No matter the fact that he plays he plays a Polish Jew, and he encounters, it's a story about the travels essentially with an anti-Semitic Polish colonel. And even with the sort of vulgar things that are said to him, there's a sweetness in his patience. You don't sense ever that it's a lack of strength at all.
No.
You feel like he's tough, but he is, there's just a nobility that weaves its way through in almost everything he does in the film.
And to me, that's how he survived.
Yes, right.
That was the strength for him to survive.
What about when you see him in films now?
Well, I think right after he died in 1987, it was very hard for me to watch anything that he did where he was Danny Kaye. Let's say he did a wonderful An Evening with the New York Philharmonic in which he conducted. I couldn't watch that because he was Danny Kaye and closer to my father than, you know, Yakubowski and Me and the Colonel or Burley in A Kid from Brooklyn. And when I now watch his movies, I just cannot get over how multi-talented he was, and also where I got my curly hair from.
All right, Dina, thank you very much. We're going to watch the film now. Those were such great stories. It's from 1958, also with Kurt Jürgens and Akim Tamirov, Me and the Colonel. Hey, I'm Ben Mankiewicz, and back with me to talk about the movie Me and the Colonel and its star, Danny Kaye. It's Kaye's daughter, Dina Kaye. Dina, welcome back. So I kind of do a double take at the end of this movie because it's this very sweet movie. But then you realize that both these guys left the girl.
What can I say?
They left the girl to fend off the Nazis. It does seem like the right ending, but I mean, and they both are in a sense being gallant, and it is the right decision. But there she is waving goodbye. Nobody rescued her.
We have to talk to my Uncle Bill about this. And
That's right, the producer.
about the ending.
But a movie for which he won a Golden Globe.
The interesting thing about my father's awards, for example, is he never was, in today's lingo, the Oscar never went to him.
Right.
Except for his 2 honorary Academy Awards. One was for the, he hosted the Academy Awards in 1952.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I saw it about 6 months ago. Tails, is so elegant.
He seems like a perfect choice.
So elegant. And in those days, of course, there were no prompters, so people read, and the thank you speeches were thank you.
Right.
It wasn't, oh, do you love me?
Right.
So he was awarded his first Oscar for Assignment Children. Well, it was in the guise of his work for UNICEF, which was a documentary he made about UNICEF. 1954. And then he was awarded the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award in 1981 for his long-lived devotion to humanitarian causes.
Let me ask you about UNICEF.
Yes.
How did that come about? How did that start? Why was that important to him?
It happened on a plane ride, actually. It was important to him because he was very concerned about giving back. And he was very concerned about the world's children. He used to say that children are the world's most valuable natural resource. And he had fun. He loved it. He had this ability to relate to children because, in my view, some people say, oh, well, because he was sort of a child. I think that's a very lazy way of looking at it. To me, the more interesting explanation is that his instincts weren't socialized out, so that he could, and he really didn't care what people thought about him. And he always used to say that children feel something that's true or not. So he would roll on the floor, he would dance with leopards, he would make faces, he would rub noses. He was just spontaneous, as children tend to be, and he had a sense of play. And he just loved it.
Dina, thank you very much. Stick around. Dina and I will be back to introduce our next film. It's from 1947, and it teams Danny Kaye with Virginia Mayo and Boris Karloff.
Today on Turner Classic Movies, Danny Kaye daydreams in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Then Kaye spins a yarn or two in Hans Christian Andersen. And Angela Lansbury has a thing for Danny, the court jester. TCM puts on a